Yeah, of course, it's a very difficult question, and I think that before we settle on a unified theory of consciousness, there'll be a lot of renaming and merging and unmerging of those theories, and eventually they will probably arrive at something in the middle. If I had to pick my favorite, I would say that I am in the camp of Carl Friston and
Mm.
Andy Clark, treating consciousness as as an innate feature of our brain that is centered on prediction. That consciousness arises as a result of our brains constantly predicting and explaining ongoing experience. This ongoing experience brings in new information into the brain, and the brain is trying to wrangle this new information into submission by assigning predetermined abstractions and patterns that had already extracted from it in the past, and by assigning those patterns onto ongoing information, modifying it in the process, and then having new information being assessed in this way. So this is the circular process of information being predicted, these predictions shaping ongoing information shaping predictions, and then vice versa, and in a circle, and that circle, that is what we experience as a consciousness. So
Mhm.
in very simple terms, in a nutshell, that's what I believe it is. I also think that what I just described is very compatible with integrated information theory. It's just that integrated information theory, as it's currently formulated, I think makes some more specific predictions about the role of different parts of the brain, the prefrontal cortex or the parietal cortex, which may or may not prove true. I think that that's a little bit far away from my field of study for me to make informed judgment about the specifics of the predictions of integrated information theory and the global workspace theory as well. There was this recent study which had pre-assigned goals for what will decide if one theory is right and what theory is wrong, and they did those experiments, and basically it's still unclear. We we wanted to clarify which one is going to win and which one will lose, and well, both of them lost in some way. Both of them lost one in some way, lost in some way. So I sort of feel like that's where everything is. I do believe that consciousness is a feature of matter. I don't believe that there is something that we need to fundamentally discover, like the quantum effects in microtubules. Um, to be honest, I don't want to mess with the microtubules people. Microtubule people seem to be very aggressive in my experience, and they will defend that theory to their death. So I don't want to fight with that. If it is microtubules, I'm happy with microtubules, but that's not where I go to naturally.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
To be fair, to be honest, microtubules are extremely fascinating
Mhm.
cellular organelles. Don't get me wrong; I love every component of the cell. It's just that, as far as I have seen it, I haven't seen enough evidence to say that microtubules have some unique properties that would explain something that other parts of the cell might not explain. I think that if you looked at a ribosome or a proteasome closely enough, you would also find some quantum effects in those. You would also find storage of information, degrees of freedom that are unexpected, and I think all of that is true. All parts of our cell are extremely complicated and probably capable of doing more than we give them credit. That's true for
Mhm.
microtubules. That's probably also true for many other parts of the cell. But that, to me, does not does not address the specific properties of consciousness necessarily.
Mhm. Mhm.
Well, we can start changing our minds about it with the technology that we have. But of course, it would be nice to gain uh, a deeper control, maybe not even control, but a way to monitor what is happening in the human brain to a higher degree of precision than we can currently do. Because what limits us in many cases is that we can access individual neurons in research animals. But it's very hard to ask a research animal what's going on in their consciousness and what they're experiencing. And we can't really get to that level of resolution and control in a human brain. So, of course, if our technology progressed to the point when we could know about molecular processes inside individual neurons, I'm sure that would advance our understanding of consciousness to a greater extent that our technology allows us today. But that being said, I think we already know enough about how the brain works to be able to assign mental experiences, mental functions to specific processes in our brain. Just need to be maybe more courageous about doing that. I think that neuroscientists are kind of fearful. They're scared of saying that neuron is fear, and then this one is pleasure, and that this theta rhythm represents attention. It's a leap. It was always going to be a leap. But I think we need to make it at one point or another if we are to talk about consciousness in materialistic terms. I think any time when we can relate a higher order aspect of human brain functioning to something really, really big, to something really, really small, like an individual molecule or receptor or a cell in the brain, that is fascinating. And it's really rare. It's really, really rare to have that. So, Wilder-Penfield studies where, like you said, you poke different parts of the cortex and you elicit these, a sensation of deja vu or color blue, or anything that can go through your brain, you can elicit by poking some part of the brain. I mean, that is incredible. And that's really our foundation for how we understand the cerebral cortex now. Or psychedelic drugs, honestly. That's another... any kind of psychotropic substance that predictably and specifically modifies how your brain perceives a certain aspect of reality. That is also fascinating. Or another technique that's used in neuroscience, binocular rivalry, where you can put on goggles that will deliver two different images into your eyes that are not compatible with each other. You can't make a three-dimensional percept out of them. And so your brain will end up constantly, endlessly switching between the two. It won't stop. You can't control it. It will go, you see one thing, and then a few seconds later you see another thing, and then the first thing, the other thing, and so on endlessly. So it all feels like in instances like that, you just feel how fragile and how material your mind is, that you can tweak a couple of molecules and you stick a wrench into this process that we don't give a second thought to, that just happens naturally. But there are ways that you can just tweak it a little bit and see that the whole thing falls apart. And that to me is some of the most valuable lessons from neuroscience that we'll hopefully have more of in the future. Well, I think that when you consider your mind and your life within this greater context of life on Earth, which is what the book is doing, you contemplate your purpose and your meaning. And that's the thing, this is the philosophical things that people have been grappling with for thousands of years. What is my purpose and what does my life mean? And I think what seeing your life in the context of, evolution of life on Earth teaches you is that there is no purpose. Life is not looking to move anywhere in particular, but there is meaning. There's meaning in every single element of your body, your brain, your mind. There is a story behind every single aspect of your life that goes back eons, billions of years into the past, and connects everything to everything else. And if you trace each of those stories to that foundation, that is how you understand it. So that, to me, is worth living for. There might not be a purpose in life on Earth in general, and in our individual lives specifically, but there is meaning in everything. And if you just focus on the meaningfulness rather than the purposelessness, I think you can be a happier person.